Okay, good morning, guys. Welcome to Let's Crack Management Exams in English with Unacademy. So, you can learn to crack CAT with Unacademy, which is India's largest learning platform. You can get the subscription and you can get access to unlimited courses that we have here. I'll start off with a brief introduction about myself. My name is Achyut, and I am a 2018 graduate from XLRI. During my time at XLRI, I won more than 8 national level case study competitions. I'm currently working in an HR strategy role, designing role for a startup, and my verbal score was 99.8 percentile. My XAT verbal score was 99 percentile, and I've also written GMAT in 2014, and my verbal score was the raw score was 42, which roughly translates to a 99 percentile on a worldwide basis for that section. And I have a prior teaching experience with an NGO where I primarily taught in orphanages. And of course, I am a verbal faculty with Unacademy at the moment. So, of course, you might be wondering what would be the advantage of buying, say, Unacademy subscription. Of course, you have your daily live classes. We've got numerous instructors who go live daily, and you can have discussions with them and get your doubts clarified. You can switch between classes. There'll be, of course, numerous live tests and quizzes, which are very important for anyone who's seriously preparing for a management exam to get a feel of the real exam. Of course, all our courses are structured in line to get you the best out of your preparation for the exam that you're aiming at. And of course, uh, the subscription will get you access to all our past recorded courses as well as any live courses that might be recorded in the future. So you have unlimited access to every single aspect of an academy with by a subscription. Of course, we have numerous, like I said, there are numerous faculty members that you can select from. Uh, Many of them are uh, very experienced, almost 20 plus years. So if you want to learn from them, you can learn from them. You can pick and choose as you wish. And of course, we'll have live classes, numerous, and we also have numerous batches. So you can join a batch based on what your time frame is. Let's say if you're just planning to write CAT 2020, or if you say want to write CAT 2021, so you can join a batch according to what suits you best, and it's tailored fitted to your needs and necessities. So what is that like what are the advantages of having an academy subscription? One is of course the fact that you can plan this according to your schedule. And as somebody I myself used to prepare for my MBA while I was working, and I know that getting a fixed schedule is always very difficult to manage with a full-time job. So the advantage with an academy is that you can schedule classes whenever you want, and you can tailor fit to when you are free and best when you are suited to studying. Then of course we have multiple languages for coaching, so there's no language barrier. In case you want to learn, say, in English or in Hindi, Tamil, we've got almost 15 regional languages in which we've got coaching, and I think we're expanding it steadily as well. Of course, and then we have the benefit of that you can learn anytime, anywhere. Like let's say you're traveling, you're going to work, or you're traveling to your hometown. The learning never stops, so you can learn anytime, whenever you get a free moment. That maximizes your preparation as well because there's no time that is wasted. And of course, then we have interaction with educators because on our Unacademy app, you can interact with any educator. You can reach out to them with doubts. You can ask them questions, or you can engage in discussions in the live classes, and you can get your doubts clarified. So there's proper interaction that goes on with any educator out there. You can reach out to anyone, anytime. And of course, in the class, we'll have numerous live polls where we ask questions based on what is going on, what is being discussed, and we get answers from all the students. So it's like it's this lively interaction that ways that mimics what you might expect of any uh, coaching class. And then of course, as I mentioned, the important part of any preparation is the live test and quiz that you have. And we have numerous tests. We have a huge repository of tests and quizzes that you can attempt. And once you write Then you'll get a detailed report on what your performance has been like, how much time you take, which section is your strong point. So this will help you break down your performance, and you can work on your weak spots and strengthen the chinks in your armor, if you will. And of course, we have lots of PDFs and learning materials that you can get access to them, as well as the notes of instructors. So of course we've got numerous CAT plans you can that you can choose. But as you can see, the most cost effective are the 12 months plan and the 24 months plan. And also, if you're planning to buy an Academy subscription, I would recommend that you use my code Achyut. It will get you 10% off, and you can use it for buying any course on Unacademy. You can share it with your friends and family. Please ask them to use my code Achyut, and you can save a lot of money on your already reasonably priced plans from Unacademy. Right. So let's come now to ZAT. So what is? I'm sorry. So what is ZAT? ZAT is conducted by XLRI, and it's primarily used for admissions into the Xavier colleges, which are run by the Jesuit group, such as, of course, XLRI, XIMB, XISS. There are new and XIME. There are numerous Xavier colleges across India, many of them quite well known. It is also used by the non-Xavier colleges for their admission process, such as SP Jain, Mika, and IMT Ghaziabad. And the structure of the SAT is that there are totally four sections. You have your verbal, which has 26 questions, more or less, plus minus one. Quant and data interpretation, which is 28 questions. Decision making, which is 21 questions. So if you add all of this up, it comes to a total of 75. And since each question has 1 mark, so the total ZAT marks is 75 marks for the qualifying part of the exam. There is a GK section as well, which has 25 questions each of 1 mark. But GK is not used as a qualifying criteria for being called for the GDPI. GK is only used during the final round once you have given your interview for deciding a final candidature for admission into the college. So your main focus typically is always on the verbal, quant, and the decision making part of that. And today we'll be focusing on the decision making part. As you can see, decision making has 21 marks. So that's almost 1/3 of the paper. So it's a very important aspect of ZAT, and it is very unique to ZAT as well. No other MBA exam has such a unique section in its paper. So that is why a lot of people find it challenging on how to address the questions in the decision making section, because it will. So uh, it primarily, the reason behind having this section is that it follows the ethos of the Xavier Institutes, where and especially of XLRI, which XLRI's motto is for the greater good. So most of the questions that you see there typically test your decision making skills in challenging situations, or in replica of actual managerial situations where you have to take pick from multiple courses of action, taking account various factors. And as I mentioned, scoring well in this section is very important for getting into XLRA or the top colleges, because it's almost 1/3 of the paper. So what are they trying to see in based on these questions? As I mentioned, one is, of course, the management, how you resolve management issues, how do you address, how do you tackle, how do you approach actual management issues. And it's, see, in a real life, any management issue has to be resolved efficiently and quickly and in the best manner possible, while keeping in mind all the stakeholders. So there are multiple stakeholders for any company. You have your founders, you have your employees, you have the management, you have the customers, you have your suppliers. So you have to ensure that a decision does not adversely affect any one of these parties. So you have to make sure you keep in mind all the stakeholders for an organization. And of course, the second thing is that when you're in the corporate world, the employer's goals and image always take top priority over any individual person. Because if you end up ruining the image, or disrupting the goals of a large organization, you are disrupting the lives or livelihood for multiple people. So the needs of the many outweigh the needs of one. That is something that you always have to remember, and that is something that you have to imbibe as well. Also, they check that whether you're analyzing situations properly, because they'll give a certain amount of data, but you have to draw some certain extrapolations on your own, and that's what they're trying to see, whether you're able to think beyond what is given in the questions, and think of all possible scenarios that might happen. We'll discuss this in detail, of course, going forward. And of course, since XLRI and the Xavier are known for their high ethical standards, uh, they also see that when you have ethical dilemmas, do you have a proper humanitarian outlook where you ensure that there's a best possible outcome for all the people involved. So these are the general guidelines of what they're trying to see in the potential candidates and check in the decision making skills. So how do you typically prepare? I would suggest the best way to get an idea of that decision making is to go through the old papers and the decision making questions there, because there is no fixed source that you can study from. I mean, there are a lot of books that claim that they have decision making questions, but you never know whether they'll be the same as what will be there in a XAT paper. So typically, I would recommend for people who are serious about XAT to go through the last 5 to 7 years worth of papers and go through all the decision making sections, try to solve them, and if you get them wrong, try to understand why you got them wrong and what is missing in your way of approaching these questions in your thought process. And I would suggest that if you can, you should first have a look. The first look you should have at the decision making is a few months before the paper. Like let's say because that is in January, I would suggest somewhere around June, July, August range. Have a look at decision making section. Solve 2 3 years worth of papers. Get an idea, and then once you've gotten a basic hang of it, then focus on the other sections for the next 3 4 months. And then again, once just say about a month before final XAT paper, around December, because the exam is in January, again revisit the decision making from the old papers, and this time finish whatever papers that you have not attempted so far. Right. So now there are basically two types of questions essentially. One is a single question based passage where you'll be given a passage and there'll be just one question based on it. And then you have the multi-question type. You have one passage and they'll be given multiple questions based on the passage and you have to answer them. So essentially it's a very simple division. So let's start with one particular, with some of the questions that came in the 2019 paper. So we can get an idea of how to approach these questions. So let's go with the first question. You are a HR manager in the HR department of Vikash Educational Charitable Trust. You organize and support recruitment and training, provide secretarial support for disciplinary investigations, and keep personal records of staff. So you have three duties. You organize recruitment and training, providing secretarial, you provide support for disciplinary investigations, meaning a part of that, and you keep records of the staff. You report into Mrs. Dilipa, who's one of the two senior HR managers who reports to HR director. So the hierarchy is there is a HR director, there are two HR senior managers, out of which one is Mrs. Dilipa, and under that you're reporting into her. You're the HR manager, right? So for the post of consultant professor in the trust, two internal candidates, Mr. Rana and Mr. Charan, were interviewed. Now, Mr. Charan was selected as he had considerably more academically gifted with impressive leadership skills, even though he had less experience than the other. 3 days later, Mr. Rana came to your office complaining that the selection was unfair as he had more experience than Mr. Charan. So essentially, what has happened is two candidates have been shortlisted for a role, and Mr. Charan has seems to have more of a better academic performance, and he seems to, according to the judging committee or whoever interviewed him, that he seems to have very good leadership skills. But his overall work experience is lesser than Mr. Rana. So 3 days after Mr. Charan being selected, Mr. Rana comes to your office complaining that he feels that the entire selection process unfair, and because he has more work experience than Mr. Charan. So how will you handle this issue that Mr. Rana has raised? The first is tell Mr. Rana that you empathize with him, but the process was fair and the details of the assessment could be shared with him. So in this case, you're telling Mr. Rana that you're showing him empathy, you're telling him that the process was fair, and you share details of the assessment. Uh, and you're offering that you can give him the details of the assessment so that he could have a look himself at what the assessment looked at, so that he knows that the selection was unbiased and it was fair. So I think this seems a possible solution. So let's keep this as a possible solution for now. A is a possible solution. Then we'll take option B. Tell Mr. Rana that if he's interested, he could write to the HR director and he would act as per the directives received. So in this case, what you're doing is you are putting the responsibility on somebody else. meaning you're saying that you reach out to the HR director and then you will act as per whatever the director says. So you are deflecting the responsibility here, and that is not a good sign in any manager, because you're supposed to take responsibility, you're supposed to take decisive action. You're not supposed to just pass the responsibility or the blame to somebody else. So this doesn't seem like the right answer. This would not be right. See, offer tea to Mr. Rana and say that you can understand why he's upset. Let him have a bit of a moan and help him to get out of his system. Now, while this seems like a potentially good answer because it shows a lot of humanitarian gesture where you let someone have some tea and you give them a chance to vent their feelings. But the thing is, this is only a temporary answer, because if you see, he might get it out of his system. He will get the frustration out of his system, or the annoyance, or the anger, or the hurt. But it does not have a long-term conclusion to the issue, the doubt that he has in his mind that the system was unfair. So C does not seem like the right answer, but it could be. We'll revisit again. Like we'll keep it in the same probable section with the A option. So A and C are probable. B has been eliminated. D is, tell Mr. Rana that the institute finds the right person for the job, not the one who has been around the longest. Now, this seems like a logically correct thing, because you are telling you are telling facts to Mr. Rana, and it is true that the institute would obviously find the right person for the job, and it's any person who is being selected for a job will be based on the basis of their appropriateness for the job and not just because they have tenure. So while this option is correct, please understand that when somebody is upset, if you tell them that, if you're indirectly saying that they're not the right person for the job on their face, they're bound to get more upset. So I think D has the potential for making Mr. Rana more upset, and making the situation worse. Then we so D doesn't seem like a probable answer. D doesn't seem like the right answer to go with, so let's eliminate D along with B. Then we come to E. Warn Mr. Rana that his complaint will be construed as misdemeanor and held against him in the next promotion. So now you are going into a absolutely belligerent mode where you are confronting him and you're threatening Mr. Rana. Now the question is, this Mr. Rana is complaining, he seems to be upset, and if you threaten him at that point, that potentially can blow up the situation and make it much worse. When somebody is upset, you do not threaten them further. So E is definitely not going to be the right answer because it's going to make the situation worse. So now we have A and C. Now let's decide between A and C. As you remember, A and C were potential answers. Now in A, you're empathizing with Mr. Rana and you're giving him the tools, you're giving the information for him to be able to decide on his own whether the selection was unfair as he claims, or was it fair. Because you're giving the details of the assessment, so he can analyze it himself and he can find out, was it correct, was it not correct. So this seems to be a good, really good, solid airtight plan. It doesn't seem to have any weak points because you're giving him empathy, meaning the person feels heard out and he feels some human connection. And you're not telling him that he was the wrong person, but rather you're giving him the information to make the decision for himself of who, or whether the process was fair or not, or whether the job was, whether he deserves the job more than Mr. Charan or not. So there is no gaps in this option. The C was, like I said, as we mentioned, in C there is no long-term solution. It just give him a tea and you ask him to vent his feelings, but that will not resolve the doubts that are there in his mind, and that is not a long-term solution or conclusion to the thoughts that he has. So therefore, A is the logically right answer. Then again, another question for the same thing. Mrs. Dilipa, your the one, remember Mrs. Dilipa? She's our senior reporting. She's our manager, who's a senior HR manager. She has asked you to conduct a non-teaching staff induction training. You are to call for a tender from various agencies with specifications that includes the contents, duration, experience, budget, and other relevant information. You then need to shortlist 5 agencies from the list of 20 and make a presentation within 2 days. So there are 5 responses, and you have to select the best of the responses in the descending order of effectiveness. Now, essentially, what you have to do is that you have to shortlist couple of agencies. You have to shortlist 5 agencies from a total list of 20 and make a presentation within 2 days. So, out of the steps that are given, you have to find the most effective, then the least effective, and then the lesser effective step and the least effective step, right? So let's look at the responses that are there. Rate all 20 agencies on a scale of 1 to 5 on information available and select the top 5. Now this seems like a logical step because obviously you have a scaling system and it's based on the information provided, and it's an unbiased method because on basis of the scaling you're selecting the top 5. So I would say this seems like a appropriate step. So I think let's keep point number the first response in under appropriate steps. Then you have the second step, which says select the 5 lowest bids based on the price quoted. Now, in this case, you are selecting the agencies on the basis of the price alone. That does, in this case, you're ignoring their quality, whether they have fulfill all the requirements, all the specifications, and you're just looking at the price. So this does not seem like an appropriate response. So we'll keep 2 under not appropriate response. 3. Selection criteria from Dilipa and HR director and shortlist the bidders accordingly. Now, this seems like an appropriate response because you're finding out what is the selection criteria from the people who have given you the project, and based on the proper selection criteria, you're going to shortlist the bidder. So this seems like a logically a good step. So you put it along with response number 1 in the appropriate step. So you have step response 1 and response 3 under appropriate, and you have response 2 under the inappropriate steps. Then you take 4. 4 says follow the advice of a person who has completed a similar task. Now, of course, this might seem like the right answer because you're somebody who's already gone through this, so you're taking their advice. But you have to understand that the person who might have completed similar task might also be following instructions from the HR director or Dilipa. So it makes more sense to get the information directly from Dilipa or the HR director than to get from someone who's gotten from them. So if you want to get proper information, it always makes sense to get the information from the source of it rather than from somebody. There's something called Chinese whispers. So somebody tells A tells B something, B tells C something. So the information gets distorted when being passed on. So 4, while it seems like a reasonably good step, it is not completely appropriate, but we'll still put it with 1, 3. So now let's see now we have 1, 3, and 4. Now out of 1, 3, and 4, 4 seems to be the most unappropriate option out of the other two because the 1 and 2 are based on slightly logical reasoning where you're taking actual you're measuring the agencies on actual parameters that matter to the organization, while 4 is just you're taking the input of somebody who's done it, which is a good input, but it is not the best input. So 4 is the least appropriate or the least effective out of these 3 options. So which of the 5 options has 4 and the last, because it's in descending order, so 4 is the least. So we have only B option 1, 3, and 4, and we have C option, which is 3, 2, and 4. But as we've already discussed, uh, as we've already discussed, the second option has been second option has been selected. As we've already discussed that the third option, which is selection criteria from Dilip and HR actor, is the most appropriate here because it typically shows that you're getting the information clearly from your seniors and you're making decision on it. So that would be the most effective way to start, right? So 3 has to be the starting option, right? Now, if you remember, we've also said that 1 is also an effective option because you're taking while you're making it on the basis of facts of a scaling rate. Of course, the scale that you've decided is on based on the information that is given and it is not taken from your seniors, but it's still effective. So 3 and 1 have to be the most appropriate options in any of the answer options. So in that case, we have option B and we have option E. But the difference between B and E is that 1 is being shown as more effective than 3. But the thing is, the correct answer sequence has to be 3 and then 1, because the most effective criteria is always seeking information from the root source, which is the your manager and the HR director. So out of B and E, you have to you can easily eliminate B, right? And other answer options can be easily eliminated because A, C, and D do not have 3 and 1 into the first answer options, because 3 and 1 are the most effective. So since we are only shortlisting between B and D, and B does not have 3 as the most effective, it shows 1 as most effective. It shows 1 as more effective than response 3. So we are eliminating the B answer option and we are going with E. So it is 3, 1, 2. Right. Now we have now Vikash Trust has recently been plagued with a high turnover of teaching assistants, with many looking for higher salary and better facilities. So basically, a lot of teaching assistants have been leaving Vikash Trust, and they're going for higher. Well, they're going to other jobs where they get better salary or they get better facilities. So basically, you have been asked to design and run a campaign to attract and appoint 10 teaching assistants, right? And one of your measures of success will be the retention of the new recruits. So you have 4 weeks for the interview. Now the thing is, essentially, you because a lot of teachers are leaving, you have to run a campaign and you have to get 10 new TAs, teaching assistants, and your measure of success, meaning the effect, the how they'll measure your success in this task is on the basis of how many new recruits you will retain. So now you have just 4 weeks to conduct the interviews, and you have following 4 steps. And you have to, again, like the previous question, you have to take 3 steps on them, and again you have to arrange them in the descending order of effectiveness. So you have to start with the most effective, and then you have to end with the least effective, right? Now let's see. The first is shortlist apt candidates who reflect values of the trust from among respondees to your wide advertisement campaign. So one seems to be a good option. Why? Because since you're shortlisting candidates who reflect the values of the trust, that means there is a good chance of these candidates sticking around with the trust and not leaving soon. And don't forget, it has been mentioned that your measure of success will be retention, meaning how long they stay with the Vikash Trust. So if you find candidates who have the same values as the trust, they might find more connection with what the work that trust is and might stick around longer. So it makes sense to the first step seems to be quite apt, and so we'll keep it under a uh, uh, apt response category. Apt, and this is non-apt. Then we have design an ad that attracts candidates with value that matches the trust, release it at an appropriate time, and revalidate the candidate's credentials at the time of shortlisting. This is quite similar to the first one, since you're attracting candidates with the same values as that of the trust. So two also seems appropriate. So we'll again keep it in the appropriate options category. Third is repeat the process that was followed by the trust last time. Now, this does not seem to be the right step, because if you see last time, whatever step was followed by the trust, okay, and the teachers that were hired, those are the teachers that have been leaving frequently for higher salary and better facilities. So that means the previous process was not effective. That is why these people, the people that they hired, left so soon. So there was definitely some deficiency with the process that was followed last time. So we should not be following the last uh, process. So we can eliminate 3 completely. So we'll put it as non-plausible step. So 3 is in non-plausible, non-apt step, and you have 1 and 2 in the apt steps category. Then fourth is seek expert advice on drafting an attractive advertisement. Obviously, so you will take an expert advice on designing the advertisement, and that's a given. So because when you're drafting up, see, getting the right candidates is obviously a good thing, and you need to attract the best, and having the right advertisement is a necessary step. So we'll keep 4 as a necessary step there, right? So let's see. Now we have these 4 options, and how now which of these do you seem are the most apt here? Now, of course, 1 and 2, where you are reflecting the values of the candidate, seems to be the most uh, apt steps, because uh, in this case, uh, you have uh, we're taking candidates who are reflecting the values of the trust, obviously. Now let's shortlist between 1 and 2, which seems to be the more appropriate option, right? Now the first one is that you just shortlisting the candidates who reflect the values of the trust among the people who respond to your campaign, right? You're just shortlisting them and you're interviewing them. The second one essentially takes additional step, that you design a ad which reflect. So the thing is, in the first step, you are shortlisting the candidate. So you put in a normal ad, and out of all the candidates, you're shortlisting only the candidates who, upon discussion with you, reflect values of the trust, right? On the other hand, in the second step, it says that you design an ad that attracts candidates with the values that match the trusts. Meaning, the ad is designed in such a way that all the potential people who respond to your ad have the same values as the trust. Now, that means that your potential sample pool of candidates is large, because all the candidates who apply will have the same values as the trust, as opposed to the first step, in which some candidates do apply, and out of that you only select the people, you only shortlist the people who have the same values. So all of them may or may not have the values same as the trust. So second seems to be the most appropriate step here, because you get a large sample pool of people who have the same values as the trust, right? So then you of course release it at appropriate time and revalidate the credential at the time of shortlisting. So second seems to be the most apt. Now let's see what answer options have second as the first most apt step. So you have B, right? Right. So then we come to the second question that was done in the 2019 paper, and right. So this talks about the new induction program training program has been a roaring success, meaning the one that you conducted has been a roaring success, and all new induction courses for the next 12 months have been tightly scheduled, right? So basically the induction program that you did a shortlist for has gone perfectly, and the new induction courses for the next 12 months have been tightly scheduled. So you have induction courses planned very tightly for the next 12 months. Priya, who's the head of the trust, requesting you to train 8 newly recruited teaching assistants before they start their job next month. You explain that all the slots are fully booked for the next 3 months, but he insists that the new teaching assistants be trained immediately to hopefully reduce the turnover among them. You speak to Dilipa, who wants you to deal with the issue on your own, right? Now, basically, what happens is that you have the new induction training program has been a success, and you have induction courses planned continuously for the next 12 months, and tightly packed. And then today you get a call from the head of the trust, and he's saying that that there are 8 new TAs that have been recruited, and they need to start their job next month, and you need to train them. So you try to explain to him that, of course, that your slots are fully booked for the next 3 months, but he's still insisting that they be trained immediately. And your boss, who's Dilipa, says that you have to deal with the issue on your own. So she's saying that you have to do it on your own. So you have to take the decision appropriately on your own, right? So now let's see what are the responses that you can wish to communicate, that you can communicate to Mr. Surya. And again, as before, you have to arrange them in the descending order effectiveness, as we did in the previous 2 questions, right? So the first is inform him that once the schedules are drawn up, it is not possible to effect any change, as the reputation of the trust would be at stake. So this seems like while this seems like an appropriate response, because this is factual, and this is a valid response, because the reputation of the trust will be affected. So it is honest and clear and factual, but what is missing in this option is that it does not provide a solution to what Mr. Surya is asking, right? So it is midways between apt and not so effective and not so effective. Then let's take the second option. You have suggest that a new agency may be permitted to run induction sessions for these teaching assistants as a special case. So basically you're saying that just for these 8 people, we have get a new agency to do induction sessions for them, because it's an urgent need. Now, in this case, you are providing a solution
to the problem that has been given to you. So this might seem like an effective solution for now. Then third is tell him that if some inductees drop out in the first month, at least some teaching assistants can be accommodated. Now this is not a good option, not so effective option, because there is a bit of variability. Only if the inductees drop out are you saying that you can accommodate these teaching assistants. But that might not happen. They might not drop out. So that means what the teaching assistants will not get accommodated or trained. So this doesn't seem like an effective solution. Fourth is tell him that as there is no space available in the induction training session for 3 months, you as the HR manager will conduct induction sessions for them after office hours. So in this case, you are of course giving him a solution, but the thing is, you are also giving facts that there is no space. But you have to understand, in this case, you are ending up taking a lot of pressure or weight on your own, in the sense that you will be ending up uh, spending more time after office hours, and you'll be affecting your own time management, your own health, your own work-life balance to accommodate something that he has requested, right? So this doesn't seem like a very effective option. It seems like a mid-range, but because you're saving cost at the cost of your own, you're saving some money for the company because you're not taking external agency, but you are spending of your own time. So this seems like an effective thing, but it is very detrimental to you as the person involved in this step. So it seems like midway between effective and non-effective, right? Now, out of all the options that we have, I think two seems to be the most apt, because in most effective, I would say, because in this case you end up uh, spending making an exceptional case. It's a one-time thing. You get an agency who does the training properly for these people, and your normal schedule does not get disrupted. So two has to be the most apt response, right? The next most apt response has to be number four, because you have given facts to the founder, and you have offered to take on additional responsibility on yourself. Now, while it is not ideal, like I said, that is why number four is not the most effective option, but it is the second best thing after the first one, in which case you have an external agency to do what you do, right? Third is where you tell uh, third would be then option number three is the next least effective, because there is, you're giving him a solution, but you're giving him a solution that may or may not work. Like I said, it's only if the inductees drop out, only then will the teaching assistants be accommodated. So three gives a partial solution to Mr. Surya. And then the least effective is number one, because in this case you're giving him facts without giving him a solution to his problem. So the ideal arrangement would be 2 4 3 1, which is option D. Right. Now we come to a different question. Sorry, I it's been this is the public relations department of an organization has only spent 4 crores of its allocated 16 crores on publicity. Right. There are 2 months left in the financial year. Due to shortage of officers, the assistant director operations has been given an additional charge of publicity. Because of his other commitments, he is unable to find time to undertake tasks such as baseline study, ascertaining communication needs, testing proposed messages, media channels, deciding optimum periodicity, measuring impact, etc. He also argues spending the rest of the budget is unnecessary because the regular programs are already widely known. His boss, the director, however, feels that only by utilizing the entire budget can a similar amount be demanded the next year. He also feels that there is nothing like enough publicity. Which of these is the best course of action for the department? So essentially what has happened is that you are that the assistant director of a public relations department has spent only 4 crores. Now it has been given 16 crores for ensuring publicity for that organization, and it has only spent 4 crores, and 10 months of the year are done and only 2 months are left. So in the 10 months of the year they have only spent 4 crores. And also, because there is a shortage of officers that are there in the organizations, the assistant director of operations has been he's also in charge of publicity. So because of this other commitments, he does not have the time to undertake tasks such as baseline study. There are necessary tasks that he has to undertake, right? Also, at the same time, he's arguing that this rest of the spending, rest of the budget is unnecessary because the programs that are already running are very well known. Now, his boss, the director, says that only if you spend the entire 16 crores this year will they get 16 crores next year's budget, because in many companies it happens that based on your the budget, that the money that you spend in a particular year, based on that the budget for next year is decided. So if they spend only 4 crores this year, next year they'll be only given 4 crores because the company will think, oh, they're able to do work in 4 crores, so why give them 16 crores? And he also feels that additionally, that there is never enough publicity. The more publicity, the better. So now, what would be the best course of action for the department, right? The first is to repeat the advertising done so far 3 times over and thus exhaust the entire amount, which makes sense. So right, the current advertisement cost 4 crores, so you do that 3 times more. That means you'll spend up 12 crores more. 12 plus 4 is 16 crores. So you'll end up using the full budget. Second is rely on the operational experience of the director and the assistant director and start spending the optimal amount right away. So basically, you focus on the experience of the director, the one who said that more advertisement should be done, and the assistant director, the one who says that no more advertisement is not needed because their programs are already known, and then spend the optimal amount based on that right away. Third is surrender the budget right away so that it can be utilized by other departments. Fourth is hire a specialized external agency which will study the gaps and needs within a fortnight and follow its recommendations. Fifth is request higher authorities to reallocate the remaining amounts to other departments of the organization. Now, the thing is, you have to understand a very important aspect here. The question is, which of these is the best course of action for the department? Meaning, you have to keep in line what step will be most positive impact for the department here, right? Now let's look at the first one. The first one is just that you repeat the advertisement done 3 times over and exhaust the entire amount. Now this will have no positive or negative benefit, because since the assistant director has already said that their programs are very well known, doing the same advertisements 3 times over will bring no more benefit to the company, except for the fact that they'll end up utilizing their full budget. So this seems like a possible good action. So let's keep that under the list of possible good course of action. This one, and this is the bad course of action. So point A is in the good courses of action. Then you have B, rely on the operational experience of the director and start spending the optimum right away. Now this is not the right answer, because we have seen already that both the director and the assistant director have differing viewpoints. So if we rely on their experience, then nothing will happen, because they have opposite viewpoints and nothing will get done. So this will be put under a bad course of action. B is not a good course of action, it's a bad course of action. C is surrender the budget right away so that it can be utilized by other departments. Now the thing is, if you end up giving the 12 crores to the, if you surrender it and ask it to be utilized for other departments, then the point that is raised by the director will come into play. Meaning next year you will be only given 4 crores. So what happens if you have higher expenditure next year? Maybe you need to spend 6 crores. Then you will not be able to spend it. So this is not a good idea. It is bad for the department. Okay. So we'll put C also under the bad options. Then let's look at E. E is very similar to C, where you request the authorities to allocate the amounts to other departments of the organization. This does not benefit the department at all, which is the main thing that we are checking in the question. We want to see the best course of action for the department only. So C, E, and B, B have been discarded as bad course of action. Now we just have to go between A and D. Out of this, A, while of course it utilizes the entire budget, does not benefit the department in any other way other than a similar budget next year, because the effectiveness would not be increased. As the assistant director has already said, the effectiveness of the programs of their regular programs are already very well known. So in this case, it makes sense to go for D by simple elimination, because when you have a external agency, they'll study the gaps, They might say that, you know what, maybe you need to hire more people, maybe you need to increase your spending in a different advertisement. So they're a specialized agency and they have external agency, so they have no biases like the director or the assistant director might have. So based on their study, whatever gaps are needed, they should they will get the report on that, and they should spend the money on the recommendations. So that will fix the gaps in there, if any possible gaps that are there in the advertising, and whatever other gaps that are there within the department, it will make the department stronger. So this course of action is best for the department. Therefore, D is the correct answer. Now we come the second question on this. Which of these new developments, if true, would justify a larger utilization of the advertising budget? One is, advertising agencies have announced a 20%, 25% reduction in rates. An internal committee of the organization has made strong recommendations to improve service delivery. Sorry. The organization has approved a new major scheme for immediate implementation. The finding of a baseline study on assessing communication needs are now available. A new assistant director has been posted to exclusively look after publicity. Right. Now the thing is, which of these steps would justify using more than the 4 crores of the 16 crores budget that has been given, right? The first one says that the advertising agencies, the one that the PR departments will interact with, have announced a 25% reduction in rates. Now this is the opposite. If their external agencies have a reduction in rates, then that means you should be using lesser part of the advertising budget as a PR department. So A is eliminated right away. B says an internal committee of the organization has made strong recommendations to improve service delivery. Now, this might seem like the right answer because it says the average candidate might think, oh, you know what, the a community within the organization has said, okay, that you have to improve the service delivery. So therefore, we have to spend more money. But you have to understand something: service delivery, it does not equal to the public relations department. That is part of their, your the service. See, the service delivery aspect is basically the front facing side of the business, meaning what their clients or their customers need, you have to improve that service delivery. So if the internal committee has recommended that, then that would mean that lesser money should go to the PR department, which is just for advertising. So B is goes against the very thing that the question wants to do, that we have to justify larger budget for the PR department. So B again is eliminated. The C says the organization has approved a new major scheme for immediate implementation. Now this says that maybe that the organization has given a new scheme for immediately implemented by the PR department. Now, of course, if there's a new scheme that has to, and seems to be a large major scheme that needs to be done immediately, obviously you need more money for it. So C seems a possible answer in line with what has been given, what is being asked in the question about justifying a larger utilization of the budget. Then D says, let's keep C as a potential answer for now. Then we look at D. The findings of a baseline study on assessing communication needs are now available. Now, this does not help in any way. There is a study on communication, on how to assess communication needs. So that gives you a knowledge view, something as in from a knowledge viewpoint, but it does not give you any reason to justify spending more money. So D cannot be the right answer. Now, E says a new assistant director has been posted exclusively to look after publicity. Now, this might be potentially a right answer, because if you see, a new assistant director uh, would also require more salary, right? But the thing is, there is no clarity in terms of whether the new assistant director is replacing the current assistant director, or is he in addition to him. If you remember, there was a person, if you see in this part of the paragraph, it says uh, this. So there is already an assistant director of operations. So the question is that the new assistant director who's been assigned, has he been sent to replace this person, or has he been sent in addition to this person? Because if it is the first case, then the budget will not go up, because obviously the same budget that was already being used on the salary of the previous assistant director will go towards this person now. On the other hand, if this assistant director is alongside the old assistant director, then yes, the budget will go up. So there is no clarity here. So E, we are not sure. On the other hand, C, there is a pure clarity that there's a new scheme that needs to be implemented, and thus we'll need to spend a larger portion of the budget, right? So, right. So then for C is the answer. Now let's look at uh, this question. Divya grew up in a business family in Hyderabad. As a systems engineer, she traveled extensively on business deals and later settled in her in-laws' place in Warangal. Once during her visit to Thailand, she got to taste some rollover ice cream. Interestingly, a few weeks later, she came across an advertisement from a reputed Bangalore-based rollover handcrafted ice cream company calling for expression of interest from potential franchisees. So essentially, what has happened is Divya is a system engineer who travels for business, and she grew in a business family in Hyderabad. And based on because of she settled with her in-laws in Warangal. And during a visit to Thailand, she got to taste some type of ice cream, which is rollover ice cream, which seems to be some type. And then after tasting that ice cream, when she saw an advertisement by a rollover ice cream company which is based out of Bangalore, who were calling for people to be potential franchisee owners with them, right? Now let's see the second paragraph. Warangal did not have any quality ice cream parlor. The company wanted the potential franchisees to invest 20 lakhs and 700 square feet space. Profits were to be shared in 3 to 7 ratio between the company and the franchisee. Divya was excited but was wondering if rupees 20 lakhs was too much to invest. Further, she did not have the entire amount and was thinking of taking a loan. She inquired with the rollover franchises and found that a franchisee in Hyderabad had sales revenues varying between 5 and 6 lakhs rupees per month with a profit margin between 25 to 30%. So Divya decided to go ahead. So essentially, these gives the numbers of the business. Basically, any franchisee owner will be required to invest 20 lakhs and have a 700 square foot space. And whatever profits will be made, 30% of that will go to the company and 70% will be kept by the franchisee. Now, Divya was initially excited, but she was doubtful whether 20 lakhs was too much to invest or not. So she would have to take the loan. Then she inquired with some other franchisees and found that most of the franchisees in Hyderabad had total revenues between 5 to 6 lakhs per month and a profit margin between 25 to 30%. So that means these companies were making anywhere from about upward profit of around 1 to 3 to 2 lakhs per month, right? So based on this, Divya found it to be adequate for her and she decides to go ahead. Now, Warangal had three areas: Kazipet, Jangaon, and Warangal. All three were linked by good roads. Kazipet was a business area where most high end retail formats were located. It was also the education hub of the city. Jangaon, on the other hand, was a growing lower middle class business area, and Warangal was mostly residential. So now Warangal has three main areas: Kazipet, Jangaon, and Warangal. And Kazipet has mainly business. It's a mainly business area, and it is also the education hub. So basically, it means that they have a lot of education institutions there, like colleges and schools, and they have a lot of businesses in that area, especially among the high end scale format. Then the Jangaon, which is the other option, has just a lower middle class business located there mainly, and Warangal is mainly residential. Mainly, so basically, it's mainly has residential societies, apartments, and people just reside there. Now, Divya favors Kazipet. Kazipet was the business area with the high-end retail format as well as the education hub. However, she soon encountered problems. Not only was it difficult to obtain space in Kazipet, but property rentals touched 30 to 40 rupees per square foot per month, as against Jangaon and Warangal, which is 15 to 20 rupees per square foot per month. Now, basically, you have to remember that it has been mentioned that they have to get a 700 foot square space. So that means in Kazipet, it would cost Divya anywhere from 21,000 to 28,000 as rent per month versus in Jangaon and Warangal, it would have costed her just over 10,000 to just 14,000 rupees per month. So almost half of the rent it would cost her in Kazipet. Now Divya has a friend who lived in Jangaon, who told her that a few branded outlets were opening in Jangaon and appeared to be the fastest growing market in Warangal with the highest percentage of teenagers. But Divya was not in favor of Jangaon. She hoped to target the college going crowd of Kazipet. High real estate prices in Kazipet and lower profitability estimate in Jangaon confused her. So basically, now the thing is she has to decide between going in Kazipet, where there is a high level, where there is a higher number of college going crowd, because as we mentioned, Kazipet is an educational hub, or whether she should go to the Jangaon market, where the rent is cheaper, but so is the profitability, the estimated profitability that she'll get out of it. So she'll make lesser money and she'll have lesser cost, or she should go to Kazipet where there'll be lesser setup cost, but there'll be higher profits as well. So now let's look at the question. Which of these factors, if true, will most likely interest Divya to start a franchisee? Doctors of the area do not consider ice cream to be a major cause of obesity. A bank is ready to give her a quick loan. She can charge high prices for her ice cream without losing customers. Her friend who runs a restaurant recently in Kazipet is doing good business. In recent times, a couple of franchises shut down within months of starting. Now, based on this reading, you can see that points A and point B are irrelevant, because you have to understand what doctor says or do not say will not have any effect on on Divya wanting to start a franchisee. So A can be discarded, and a bank ready to give her a quick loan, because her issue was never with getting a loan quickly. She knew that loans would have been, she was anyways planning to take a loan. So getting a loan quickly or maybe slightly delayed will not have a impact on her decision making. Then you come to point E. Point E seems to be the opposite. It will discourage her, because it says that a couple of franchisees shut down within months of starting. So that will discourage her. On the other hand, we have to see which option will most likely interest Divya to start a franchisee. So we come to C and D. Now let's look at D. D says her friend who runs a restaurant recently in Kazipet is doing good business. Now, while this might seem like a good option, you have to understand what this answer tells you is that only Kazipet is doing good business. So that gives you data based on how the Kazipet, her friend is in Kazipet and doing business there. This does not give her an idea of whether somebody starting in Jangaon or in Warangal will make money or not. On the other hand, it says which option would most likely interest Divya to start a franchisee. Location preference is not given. So D would have interested her to set up a franchisee in Kazipet only. But if you're trying to get an idea of to get the interest of Divya in starting a franchisee anywhere, then C is the right answer, because it says that she can charge high prices for her ice cream without losing customers. That means if she can charge high prices anywhere in any location and not lose customers, then her profitability will go up. And if her profitability will go up, then obviously she should be interested in starting a franchisee. So C option would interest her to start a franchisee regardless of the location. So if C is correct, Divya would be most likely interested to start a franchisee. So C is the correct answer. Right. Uh, Now then we come to the next question is, which of the following is least likely to demotivate Divya? Meaning, which of these options has the least chance of convincing Divya to not set up a franchisee model? So now the thing is, first is investing a huge amount but not being expected returns. So this will do the opposite. This answer is most likely to demotivate the girl, because it will demotivate her. It will tell her that you're investing a large amount and you'll not get returns. So this will definitely, it will have a most likely to demotivate Divya. So answer A is not possible, because we have to find which answer option will least likely to demotivate her. B is the bank would insist on loan repayment on a monthly basis. Now, of course, this seems to be a I don't know. This seems to be a least likely, because the bank would obviously insist on loan repayment. That's a given, and so this seems like a possible answer that it is least likely to demotivate. So let's keep it as a potential answer for now. Then we look at the property rentals would soon go up in Kazipet. Now this will be again most likely to demotivate, because if the property rentals will go up, this will decrease her profit margin. So this seems like most likely to demotivate as well. So we can eliminate C also. Unlike Hyderabad, people in Kazipet don't seem to like rollover ice cream. Again, this is most likely to demotivate her, because if people in Kazipet don't like rollover ice cream, then obviously that will demotivate her. When we are trying to find answer, that will not demotivate her. So D is also eliminated. Then then you come to E. E says rollover franchise in Hyderabad is making huge profits. Now this will make least likely to demotivate, because this will motivate her, right? Now, as we mentioned already, A, C, and D have been eliminated. Now B and E, we have to select one of these. Now the first one is the bank would insist on loan repayment on a monthly basis. Now when you reread it for the second time, it seems that B would possibly demotivate her. Maybe it might demotivate her, because it would put a pressure on her that, you know what, I have to return money on a monthly basis. So I'll have to make sure that there's constant revenue basis and all. So it does not clear her fears. It in fact gives her more worry. So we can thus eliminate B, and thus by elimination E becomes the right answer, because also the fact that the rollover franchise in Hyderabad is making profits should motivate her that, you know what, maybe I might also make profits with my franchisee. Now next we come to the third question. What could be the most likely reason for Divya opting for Kazipet? So what is the most likely reason that Divya should opt for Kazipet? Kazipet, by the way, if you remember, was a business area with high in retail formats, and it was an education hub. Also, it has high estate rental prices. So, despite that, why would Divya opt for Kazipet? Right. One is A is spiraling real estate prices in Kazipet, meaning spiraling means ever increasing. So, would that be a reason for opting for Kazipet? Obviously not. That is, in fact, one of the reasons why she thought about against Kazipet, because no business owner would want increasing rent eating into their profits. B, no branded outlets is likely to come up in Jangaon in the near future. Now, this gives you information about Jangaon, right? It does not give you information about why she's opting for Kazipet, because if she's not going for Jangaon, she can also try for Warangal. But why is she not going for Warangal? Why is she going for Kazipet only? So, option B gives you a reason why she's not opting for Jangaon, but not why she's opting for Kazipet. Those are two separate things. So, B is not a likely reason. Then we come to C. It talks about high percentage of teenagers in Kasipet attracted to rollover ice cream. Now this seems like a potential answer, yes. Because there is a high percentage of teenagers who are attracted to rollover ice cream, that's why she might want to be looking at Kasipet. So C is potentially maybe an answer. So let's keep it as a potential answer. D, high density of population both Warangal and Jangaon. Again, this doesn't, so this, in fact, this goes against her reasoning for opting for Kazipet. If Warangal and Jangaon have high density of population, it makes more sense for her to go to those two places rather than Kazipet. So D is not a reason for her to go to Kazipet. So D is eliminated. E, she felt college going crowd is excited about the latest in ice creams. Now, this seems like a possible answer. If the college going crowd is excited about the latest in ice creams, then there's a good chance that they would be obviously excited about the rollover ice cream franchise that she sets up in Kazipet being a hit among them. Now we have to decide between C and E. Now C says high percentage of teenagers in Kazipet, while E talks about college going crowd. Now if you go back to this paragraph, you have to notice this point here. Kazipet is the education hub, right? That means that you would have most or so all the colleges or most of the colleges for Warangal situated in Kazipet. That means most of the college going crowd of entire Warangal would be in Kazipet. Now, because if E is true, that means that the entire college going crowd would be excited about the additional ice cream. That seems more favorable to her than a high percentage of teenagers. A high percentage of teenagers in Warangal. First of all, we don't know Whether how many teenagers are there, like whether there's a large percentage of teenagers or teenagers form a small percentage of population there. And high percentage can mean anything from say 51% to 100%. We don't know. On the other hand, E says that the entire implies that the entire college going crowd is excited about latest in ice creams. And since we know that it is education hub, that would mean that the entire college going crowd in Kazipet would be a potential customer base for her. So therefore, E is a more favorable answer over C, and E is the correct answer, right? Then, yeah. Now next, last same question for the similar thing. What is the most important decision criteria for Divya to consider in such a business situation, right? One is attracting customers through big discounts in initial phase of business, consistent increase in the number of customers in the future, range and variety of ice cream flavors, uh, availability of space in premium locality, availability of loan at low interest rate. Now, as a business owner, what would be the most important decision criteria for Divya in this? Now, let's see which of this would actually benefit her as a business owner, each of the options. One is attracting customers through big discounts in the initial phase of business. Now, while this is a good step, there is no guarantee that if you attract customers with big discounts in the initial phase, they will return in the future once the discounts are removed, right? It might happen, it can backfire where because she's giving big discounts now, they might get used to the big discounts for ice creams and then refuse to buy ice creams once they come back to the normal prices. So this can potentially backfire. So this is not the so this cannot be an important decision for her. B, then we look at E, availability of loan at a low interest rate. Now this is seems like a probably right answer because obviously having a loan at a low interest rate would mean that she has lesser amount to repay, which is a very valid point for her. But you have to understand that this addresses one side of the problem. As a business owner, uh, having money to repay is one part of the problem. The other part is generating enough money to repay. So if let's say a business has more number of customers and they have higher loan to repay, they'll still succeed. On the other hand, a business that has a lower loan to repay but lesser customers, they'll still find the loan difficult to repay, right? So having a loan at a low interest rate is not the most important decision criteria. Of course, it's important, but it cannot be the number one criteria because for any business, the most important thing is generating revenue. And this E does not focus on generation of revenue. D talks about availability of space in a premium locality. Now, while this is again, this might be good for the business. It can be good in terms of being in a premium locality. You have a premium crowd, but it might also increase the expenses for her. Plus, there is no guarantee or there is no information that getting a parlor in a premium locality is the sure shot way to get good customers, right? Because, like I said, you might if there is no guarantee of proper customer revenue, then even if you're premium locality or a low paying locality, you will still go bankrupt. C, range and variety of ice cream flavors. Now this might be a good step. This is something that she'll definitely need to focus on, but is it the most important criteria? I mean, is this the most important decision for her in this business situation? No, it is not. It is a secondary thing once the business gets running to keep having the range and variety so that the customers come back. But look at point number B, consistent increase in the number of customers in the future. Now, this is very important. If her number of customers consistently keeps on increasing, right? Let's say first month she has 100 customers, next month she's 200, then 300, 400. Her customers base increases. That's what is most important for her because only with an increasing customer base will you have an increasing revenue generation as well, right? And as I've already mentioned, for a business, the most important thing to have is a constant revenue source and an increasing revenue source. So her number one important factor, decision factor in this point is ensuring that there's a consistent increase in the number of customers in the future. So therefore, B would be the right answer, right? Now, so these were the questions that we had in the 2019 paper, some samples of the 2019 paper. Now let's look at some questions from the 2018 XAT decision making paper, right? So now we look at this question. Satyender heads a branch of microfinance company. right? The company provides small finance loans catering to rural households. As the head of the branch, he supervises three collection officers, Palani, Syed, and Godwin. Palani was recently transferred by the company from another branch. Syed fears that Palani's transfer will pull down the performance of the branch, as he felt Palani transferred due to his poor performance in the previous branch. Now, basically, there is a branch of a microfinance company, and the head is Satyendra. Now, it has uh, this person has three collection officers, Palani, Syed, and Godwin. And Palani was recently transferred from a different branch. So Syed, who's his co-worker, fears that the overall performance of the branch might come down because he feels that Palani was transferred from the previous branch to this branch because of his poor performance there. So now we have to see which of the following information will most likely assuage Syed's fear, meaning which will most likely reduce or placate or make Syed's fear go away, right? Which of these following information? So first is in the past 12 years as the head of the branch, Satyender has exceeded targets every time. Now, this cannot help Syed's fear because in the past 12 years, as the head of the branch, Satyendra might have exceeded the targets. But that was, of course, before Palani decided joined the branch, right? So if Palani, now we don't know if Palani actually was transferred due to poor performance or not. But if he was, then uh, the fact that Satyendra had performed well in the past does not mean it will perform well in the future as well, because if Palani actually was transferred due to that reason, so he might pull down the performance. So this fact in no way will reduce Syed's fear about the branch performance coming down. B. Palani has been a top performer in the organization. His performance has deteriorated only in the last 3 years. Now, this is something that will actually increase Syed's fears. The fact that it says that Palani was a top performer, but in the last 3 years, his performance deteriorated. That will actually increase his fears that, you know what, Palani will bring down the performance of the branch. See, the branch's performance has been good for 10 years, and Syed has joined the organization 3 years back. Now, this in no way relates to Syed's fear about Palani decreasing the overall performance of the branch, because it just gives a fact about how long Syed has been in the organization and how long this particular branch is performing good. So we can eliminate C as well. Then D, when Syed joined as a fresher in his branch, others in the branch had feared that he might bring down the performance of the branch. Now, this is something that a lot of people I know, a lot of my juniors, a lot of people I know who wrote XAT exam selected D as the answer option because they thought their reasoning being, okay, you know what? Even when Syed joined as a fresher, a lot of people feared that he might bring down the performance, but he did not bring down the performance. So therefore, Syed should also treat Palani the same way. But most people, but the thing is, you have to understand, Syed joined as a fresher in the branch. Palani came into the branch and Syed feels that he, as an experienced person, has been giving poor performance. So comparing Syed's fears of people from Syed as a fresher versus Syed's fear from Palani as experienced person are two different things. So they're not the same. And then E, while calculating the branch's performance, the branch had as a choice to include new joinee's performance. Now you have to understand Palani is a new joinee for this branch. So for calculating the branch's performance of that year, the branch head, who is Satyendra can choose that, you know what, since Palani is a poor performer, is a new joinee, we will not include his performance into the calculating the overall branch performance. So only Syed and Godwin, only their performance will be used to calculate the branch's performance. Now, if that is the case, if that is true, and that means even if Palani was had joined there because of poor performance, his poor performance will not reflect on the branch's performance, which is the concern that Palani had. Right? Syed feared that Palani's transfer will pull down the performance of the branch. But if the calculation, if there is an option for the branch head to exclude the new joinee's performance, then there is this worry of Syed gets completely addressed, right? That means that even if Palani performs badly, which is, by the way, we have no certainty about it, it is just a fear that Syed has. But even if he does pull down the performance, then the branch performance does not get affected. So E is the correct answer, right? Now, second question is 3 months after joining. So 3 months later, meaning 3 months after Palani has joined, Palani submitted local travel bills to Satyendra for reimbursement. Now Satyendra realized that the bill amount was 33% higher than expected. So basically, what has happened is it has been 3 months now that Palani has been working in that branch, and he has submitted his local travel bills for reimbursement to Satyendra. And Satyendra was expecting a certain amount for the bills, but he realized that Palani's bills were 30% higher than what he expected them to be. So, which of the following, if true, will enable Satyendra to take a decision that will set a precedent which is least likely to be misused in the future? Basically, what it's saying is, okay, which of the following options, if it is true, will which of these following facts, if they're true, then that means they will enable Satyendra to make a policy change or a decision that cannot be misused in the future, right? Now, first is Palani being new to the area uses auto rickshaws, which are much more expensive than personal motorcycles used by other collection officers, right? Now, so if A is the case, then it would mean that Palani is using a auto rickshaw, uh, unlike motorcycles. So basically, Palani is using auto rickshaws, unlike using motorcycles, which are used by other collection officers, and auto rickshaws are more expensive. B is, unlike his colleagues, Palani's house has very poor public transport connectivity. So, meaning most of it, so his other colleagues, which is Syed and Godwin, have good public transport connectivity, while Palani's house has poor public transport connectivity. Unlike his colleagues, Palani's sales territory has a powerful competitor. Okay, this is self-explanatory. Unlike his colleagues, Palani's customers can meet him only during weekends. And unlike his colleagues, Palani has to visit customers repeatedly as they require additional persuasion, right? Now, the thing is, uh, let's look at the options, okay? If we look at E, unlike his colleagues, Palani has to visit customers repeatedly as they require additional persuasion. If that is the case, then it means that the 30% higher bill that is there for Palani is justified and will always be there. That means that there is that means that Satyendra cannot uh, make a change in the policy, because this is something that is has to be part of the this is part of requirements for Palani, right? Because he has to repeat customers repeatedly, and thus his travel bills would be higher. So E cannot be the answer, because you have to understand it says that the options have to enable Satyendra to take a decision, right? On the other hand, with E, Satyendra cannot take any changes or make any changes or take a decision because it's a justified thing, right? Then we take D. Unlike his colleagues, Palani's customer can meet him only during weekends. Now, this makes no sense. If they can meet him only during weekends, then why is there a 30% higher bill? So D is eliminated for being logically incorrect. C. Unlike his colleagues, Palani's sales territory has a powerful competitor. Now, that has no bearing on the higher bills that he has submitted, and therefore it cannot be even, it's not logically consistent with the issue that you're trying to solve. So, just because the sales territory has a powerful competitor, that has no impact on the travel bills. So, just like D, we can eliminate C as well, logically inconsistent. Unlike his colleagues, Palani's house has very poor public transport connectivity. Now, while there is a poor public transport connectivity, the question is, we have no information. Does he have to use a private transport? Does he have to use a public transport? Is there, like, what is the impact of the poor public transport connectivity on Syed's travel bills? There is no logical connection that we have. On the other hand, the fact that A, it says that Palani, being new to the new area, uses auto rickshaws, which are more expensive than personal bikes. This clearly gives us information that Palani, since he is new, he uses auto rickshaws. And auto rickshaws are more personal than the bikes, which are used by the collection officers. So this clearly gives us information that Palani might be temporarily using auto rickshaws, and thus his bills are higher. So therefore, A seems the most logical conclusion because this will help Satyendra to make a decision that, you know what, people who are new to the area can use auto rickshaws for 1 or 2 months or something like that in order to enable new joinees to be able to get to their clients quickly, right? So A makes the is the most logical answer here by elimination. Now, the question is Satyendra is allocating territories to his subordinates for the coming financial year. So far, Palani's performance has been poor, and this allocation will decide his future in the organization, right? Now, which of the following information will be least useful to Satyendra in taking a fair allocation decision? So basically, Satyendra has to allocate territories to his subordinates in the near financial for the next financial year. So out of the five options given, which information does not help him to make fair allocation of the territories at all, which is the least useful information here, right? Number one, Syed's territory has shown consistently good performance in the past 3 years. Syed's territory faces stiff competition from a well-known brand. A new territory that faces competition from two relatively unknown brands. Godwin's territory has shown consistent results in the past 2 years. Godwin's territory performance has been flat for 2 years. Now, if you take A, B, D, and E, they talk about what performance the either the challenges or the performances or performance related information for Syed and Godwin. So A talks about that Syed's territory has shown good performance in the last 3 years. Now this is something that will be very useful to Satyendra for taking fair allocation, because based on that he can say, you know what, Syed's territory is showing good performance, so Syed can be given more territory, right? On the other hand, information B is also something that is useful for Satyendra, because if Syed's territory has competition from a well-known brand, then that means Satyendra can take a decision that, you know what, maybe let's not give new territory to Syed because he has a lot of stiff competition in his current territory and he should focus on that. Similarly, D, which talks about Godwin's territory showing consistent results in past 3 years, meaning Godwin has done good work. So that means Satyendra can use this information to decide, you know what, Godwin should be given more territory. And E, which if true says that if Godwin's territory performance has been flat, again this will give information to Satyendra that, you know what, if Godwin's performance has been flat, then let's not give him more territory. So A, B, D, and E will all help Satyendra to make a decision regarding the fair allocation of territories. On the other hand, if you take C, a new territory that faces competition from two relatively unknown brands, that is not very useful for deciding the territory allocation, because there is no, you have to allocate the current territories to your salespeople. A new territory is typically that does not pertain to what territories are under your control already and their allocation process. So this is new information are irrelevant. So therefore, C would be the least helpful information for Satyendra for taking a fair allocation decision. Right. Now, let's come to the next question. Lal and Sons, a family business, compromises three different companies in three different industries. Sudarshan Lal was heading the entire business from the inception. 2 years ago, he hired three managers, one for each company, and Chagan Lal Jha as the CEO to look after the entire business. These three managers are reporting to the CEO. However, Sudarshan Lal and his family still own the entire business, though they're not involved in day-to-day operations. 2 years after handing over, Sudarshan was concerned that none of the companies except one is profitable. So basically, Lal and Sons is a family business and they have three companies in three different industries. So Sudarshan Lal, who was the owner and who was heading this since this company was starting, what he did was he had three managers who were heading each of the three companies, and he had a CEO who was Chagan Lal, who all these three managers reported into. Now, Sudarshan Lal and his family still own the business, but the day-to-day operations are being handled by the CEO. Now, it has been 2 years since the business is being handled by the CEO and the managers, but out of the three companies, one is profitable and the other two are not. So obviously Sudarshan Lal was concerned. So which of the following information, if true, will most likely reduce Sudarshan's concerns? So we have to see. So the Sudarshan's concerns about the companies, he's worried that the two companies are not profitable and one is. So what information will reduce his concern? A, says a leading financial institution recently advised its investors to purchase shares of the two loss-making companies with a long-term outlook. So basically, some financial investing company, a financial institution, basically advised their own investors that, and it's a leading institution, meaning it's a very well-known financial company, and they advise their investors to purchase shares of the two loss-making companies for long with a long-term outlook, meaning the financial institution has done their analysis and they have faith that these two loss-making companies will become profitable in the long run and will become are worth holding on to and getting shares of in the long run. Now this seems like a good sign, because if this is true, then that would mean that the lot of other companies who've done their research on the business model of these two loss-making companies of Sudarshan Lan, they have faith in them. That is why they're advising their investors to purchase the shares, right? So A makes sense. So let's look at the other options. The corporation's performance was stagnant for 3 years before Sudarshan handed over to professionals. Now, this will not reduce Sudarshan's concerns. This will add to his concerns. The fact that since if the corporation was stagnant for 3 years, right, that means there. So if the performance is going like this, and now they want to loss making, that means it will add to his fears. Because if they were able to maintain stagnancy for 3 years and now it has gone down, that means it will increase his fears instead of reducing his fears. So B is not the right answer. In C, we have the best performing division belongs to an industry which is growing in double digits. Again, this does not focus on his Sudarshan's concerns is about the two companies which are loss making. Now, the point C talks about the profitable division, which is the best performing division, and that being part of an industry which is growing in double digits. So this gives you the reason why it is a like that it is in an industry which is anyways growing well. That could be a possible reason why it is performing good, the profitable company. But that does not give you any that does not decrease Sudarshan's fears about the loss making companies. That only gives him a reason, possible reason why the profitable company is being profitable. So C is also eliminated. D. The people holding senior positions have been replaced 2 years ago by fresh and young talent. Now, if employee change is the reason for the loss, which is being implied here, it has still been 2 years since they were replaced. Okay. By this time, the new young talent should have started showing some impact, but the companies are loss making. So that means just because you replace a senior position, that will not decrease Sudarshan's fears about the two loss making companies. It does not matter. The rate at which employees are leaving the best performing division, which is the profitable company, is higher than the industry average. Again, this gives information about the profitable company. This does not relate to Sudarshan's concerns about the two loss making companies. So again, just like C, E is completely irrelevant and can be discarded. So since we have eliminated B, C, D, E, A becomes the correct answer, right? Then we look at the other, some of the senior employees who left Lal and Sons in recent past have complained to Sudarshan that the long cherished values of the organization, such as respect for elders, job security, etc., are being compromised. So, which of the options, if true, will indicate to Sudarshan that the employees are misleading him? So now what has happened is some senior employees who have left Lal and Sons in the recent time, in the past few months or maybe in the past 1 year or so, they complained to Sudarshan that the values of the organization, which is respect for elders and job security, are being compromised. Now we have to see which fact, if true, will tell Sudarshan that these employees are misleading him, right? Now the first is the replaced employees have been average performers for many years, right? Now, if this is true, okay, that they were average performers, but being an average performer is in no way a reason for a company to be disrespectful of the elders, right? So, even if they were average performers, if they were average performers, that still does not give a reason for the company to remove them. So that means their point is justified that there is no respect for elders, there is no job security, and those values are being compromised. So A cannot be the answer. Second is when senior employees are assigned to lead challenging but critical positions in the organizations, they resigned. Now this is a very interesting point. It says that the senior whenever senior employees in the organization are being assigned to lead very critical positions, but which are of course very challenging as well, they are resigning. So this shows that the senior employees are being given very important jobs, but they are choosing to resign themselves, maybe because they feel they cannot do it, or maybe it's too challenging for them, or whatever. But the thing is that they're being given respect and they're not being asked to leave. So B seems like a probable answer. Let's look at C, the other options. C, the senior employees were replaced by people below them and not from outside the organization. So this in no way alludes to the claims that are being made by these people to Sudarshan, because senior employees being replaced by people below them, or or it doesn't matter where they're replaced from. Okay, whether they're being replaced below them or from outside the organization, that's irrelevant. That's up to the company, and in no way is a reflection that on the values of the company with respect to respect for elders and things like that. So it's irrelevant here and can be eliminated. D, the replaced senior employees had only 4 more years of service and were not compensated for the premature termination. Now, the thing is, this is an incomplete point, because now, while it is sad that they were uh, terminated before they completed service, there is no information that shows that their termination was justified. In fact, the D option will prove to Sudarshan that his employees are correct, not that they're misleading him. So D goes against what the question is asking. We have to, the question D says, our question says that we have to find an option which will indicate to Sudarshan that the employees are misleading him. So meaning the employees are misleading him, and we have to find which answer will back that theory up. But D will not back that up. In fact, D will do the opposite. It will prove to him that they are giving him the right information, which is not the point of the question. So D is also eliminated. The number E is the number of senior employees voluntarily leaving the organization is lower than the industry average. Now, while it might be lower than the industry average, even if the employees are actually being made to leave because of a lack of respect for elders, it would still be a issue of concern, right? So the fact that it is lesser than the industry average is of no consolation to Sudarshan at all, right? In fact, B is the most logical answer because it shows Sudarshan that A, the senior people are being given respect, they are being given roles, but they're choosing to resign on their own. So that means that is why it shows that they're misleading him, because they're resigning of their own incompetence, and then they're telling him that the values of the organization are diminishing. Therefore, B is the correct answer. Therefore, right now, next question. Chhagan Lal, the CEO, was certain that someone in his leadership team was leaking information to Sudarshan Lal well before Chhagan Lal communicated. So, given the following option, how best should Chhagan Lal respond to the situation? So, somebody from Chhagan Lal's team is leaking information to Sudarshan Lal even before Chhagan Lal is telling the same information to Sudarshan Lal, right? So, how should Sudarshan Lal deal with the situation? Right? Don't forget, Chhagan Lal is the CEO and Sudarshan Lal is the owner of the company. So, essentially, Sudarshan Lal is his boss, right? Chhagan Lal should request Sudarshan to kindly wait for him to communicate, as informal sources may lead to misinformation. Chhagan Lal should complain about this to Sudarshan and threaten to resign. Chhagan Lal should request his team to continue passing information since it brings down the communication barrier. Chhagan Lal should understand that it is bound to happen and should not bother. Chhagan Lal should threaten his team that one of them will be fired with the weekend if this practice of passing information doesn't stop immediately. Now the thing is, E. Let's look at E. Chhagan Lal should threaten his team and about firing them if this does not stop immediately. The thing is, Chhagan Lal does not have any clear-cut information who has done it. Right? He doesn't. He has a. He's certain, right? Based on that, but he has no clear-cut information of who it is. Based on that, if he starts threatening his team that somebody will be fired, that will create weakness. That will show a very rash decision on his part as the CEO. Right? So he cannot threaten his team about being fired. It's a very poor behavior for a CEO to do without having clear cut information, right? So this is a overboard of a response and thus should be eliminated. Then we look at D. Chhagan Lal should understand this is bound to happen and should not bother. Now, thing is, This shows ineffectiveness of the CEO or weakness on what CEO. If he feels that it is bound to happen and should not bother, then that shows that he's not concerned or he's not strong enough, right? C, so D can be eliminated because it shows weakness as a CEO or lack of concern, which is not good. C is Shagan Lal should request his team to continue passing information since it brings down their communication barrier. That is wrong. Please understand, Chagan Lal is the CEO. The information should go from Chagan Lal only, right? I mean, if you have a boss reporting to you and somebody reporting and you start giving information, is that right? I mean, they're cutting you out of the loop when it is you who should be telling. So he should not request his team. That shows again that shows a total disregard for the order of flow of information, the hierarchy, right? As a CEO, he is the one who's best placed to give information. He's the only one who should be doing it. So C is the wrong answer. B is Chaganlal should complain about this to Sudarshan and threaten to resign. Now again, this is too much of a response. Threatening to resign over such a issue is an unwarranted response and can actually lead to uh, it can potentially backfire. It can happen that Sudarshan Lal says, "Okay, fine, you can resign." Or if even if Sudarshan Lal asks him to stay, Sudarshan Lal might think that Chagan Lal overreacts for small things and threatens to resign and might lose respect for him. So B and E are too much of overboard, like too much of a response. Like they are going overboard with their response, firing or resigning. This is for every small thing you cannot either set to resign or fire someone. That's not how a good leader works. A, on the other hand, says that Chagan Lal should request Sudarshan to wait for him to communicate as information may lead to misinformation, which is valid. So Chagan Lal can clearly tell Sudarshan Lal that whatever information you get might be incorrect, and thus please wait for me to say it. So this will pass on information to Sudarshan Lal that A, Chagan Lal knows that somebody is passing on information to Sudarshan Lal, and B, that the information that he's getting might not be accurate. So therefore, it is in Sudarshan Lal's best interest to wait for the information from Chagan Lal rather than to go from other sources. So therefore, A is the best answer, right? Now let's look at a different set here. Rose is the queen of kingdom A and Emily is the queen of kingdom B. Both share a common border, right? So basically, let's think that Rose is the queen. Rose is the queen of kingdom A, and Emily is the queen of kingdom B, and they have a common border like this, right? And they also share a border with kingdom C, a much larger kingdom ruled by King Jonathan. So let's take A and B. They have a common border, and they both also share a border with C, which is larger. So think of it like you have two circles. Let me try to draw here. So let's take this is A and B, and so it's something like this, right? Sorry, this is too big. It is hiding the thing. 1 minute. Let me reshape this. So this is your kingdom A and B, which are having a common border, and then you have kingdom C, which is also sharing a border with both of them, but is larger, right? So this is A, which is ruled by Emily. This is B. Sorry, A is ruled by Rose, B is ruled by Emily, and C is ruled by Jonathan, right? Now Jonathan has a expansive ambition, meaning he really wants to expand his territory. Though individually their armies were no match to his might, together their armies are more powerful than King Jonathan's. So basically, what happens is A and B's army are very small, C's army is larger. But A and B's army combined is larger than C's army, which is King Jonathan's. Okay. Let's write the names here for ease. Okay, King Jonathan. So this is Jonathan, and this is C, right? So same way we can have, so we have Rose and A, right? And we have, sorry, We can have C, and this would be B, Emily, Queen Emily, who's ruling B, right? So we have it fine. Now, Jonathan's kingdom also bordered Kingdom K on the opposite side, making C a buffer state between kingdoms A, B, and K. Now, right. So this is Kingdom K, right? On the opposite side, King Jonathan has Kingdom K on the opposite side, and thus Kingdom C acts as a buffer between Kingdom K and Kingdom A and B, right? And Kingdom K is ruled by King Somersault. So we have Somersault who's ruling Kingdom K. Kingdom K is ruled by King Somersault, who united a group of warring and belligerent tribes under his aegis. So basically, Kingdom K consisted of different tribes who were always fighting with each other, and King Somersault, he united all of them and he formed Kingdom K, right? Now Kingdom K and Kingdom C have continuous skirmishes with each other. Now Jonathan realized that he has limited arms and ammunition to fight on all three fronts simultaneously. Basically, Jonathan realizes that he cannot fight with A, B, and K at the same time. He cannot war with three countries because he has limited number of arms and ammunition. Therefore, he plans to double the arms and ammunition, which will take a few years, right? So basically, what happens is if he doubles his arms and ammunition, which will take few years, he'll be able to attack all the three kingdoms simultaneously. Now, which of the following actions by Emily and Rose will be best suited to delay Jonathan's plans, right? Now, what can we do? Let's look at the options, because now Emily and Rose, as we know, right now their combined armies are bigger than the armies of Kingdom C combined. But if Jonathan increases his arms and ammunition in few years, he'll be strong enough to attack both of them as well as Kingdom K, and thus he'll become too strong. So, what can Emily and Rose do to delay Jonathan's plan to increase his arms and ammunition as well as expand the territory and gain the territories of Kingdom A and Kingdom B? Now let's look at the options. Emily and Rose should send arms and ammunition to Somersault for the next few years. The two queens should meet Jonathan and attempt to sign a peace pact. Emily and Rose should also double their armies. Emily and Rose should attack Jonathan immediately. The two queens should ignore the news. Now, E, of course, is clearly can be eliminated because, of course, the two queens cannot ignore this news. Their kingdom is in danger. They cannot just sit and ignore what is happening and then assume it will go away. So E is eliminated right away. Then let's look at the first one. Let's go from top. Emily and Rose should send arms and ammunition to Somersault in Kingdom K for the next few years. But this doesn't help them. If they send arms and ammunition to Somersault, what will happen to their own kingdoms? They'll become weaker. And if Jonathan decides to attack them, they'll have nothing to defend themselves. So they are not helping themselves. In fact, they're making themselves weaker by this. So A can be eliminated. So let's look at B. The two queens should meet Jonathan and attempt to sign a peace pact. While this might seem logically correct answer, you have to understand that it is mentioned here. King Jonathan has expansive ambitions. That means no matter what happens, even if even if they attempt to sign a peace pact, he will not agree because he has ambitions to expand his territory, right? So signing a peace pact with somebody like that will serve no purpose, and in fact, they might not even be able to get a peace pact with him, right? C is Emily and Rose should double their armies. Now the thing is, if they also focus on doubling their armies, we don't know how long that will take. It might happen that King Jonathan is able to double his army much faster than them. It could also happen that despite doubling their armies, it might not be adequate, right? We don't know what is the benefit of doubling the army, right? And how long it will take and what will be the benefit of it. So C is not an effective option. D is Emily and Rose should attack Jonathan immediately. The thing is, we know for a fact that it has been given that right now their combined armies are more powerful than King Jonathan's army. So if they attack Jonathan immediately, he will lose. And if he loses, that means he will have to, his plans to increase his army size also gets delayed. His plans to be able to attack A and B gets delayed. He cannot attack them right now because he's weak. But if he's planning to expand himself, but if he gets attacked and he gets damaged, his resources get depleted, then his plans to expand into into kingdom A and B gets delayed. So therefore D is the most logically correct answer, that they should attack Jonathan immediately and put a full and delay his plans for expanding and attacking. Now, now let's see. Jonathan uh, aim aims to invade and annex Kingdom K once and for all. So Kingdom K, will just take this diagram here so that you can have ease of viewing. Right. So let's keep it here. Uh, right. Now, Jonathan plans to invade and annex, meaning it will be under his control and they'll have to pay him royalty as their king once and for all. So, which of the following options will best enable him to accomplish this ambition? Right. A. He should request the cooperation of Queen Rose and Queen Emily. He should sign a peace pact with Queen Rose and Queen Emily. He should try and create a rift between the two queens. He should invest in doubling his army, reducing all their expenditure. He should attack all three kingdoms simultaneously, giving them no time to cooperate. Now the thing is, first one is he should request cooperation from Queen Rose and Queen Emily. You have to understand that this might not work. The queens, Emily and Queen Rose, have been his enemies for a very long time. So the chances of them uh, cooperating with him are very low. In fact, almost impossible, I would say. Right. Second is, similarly, signing a peace pact with the queens will not benefit him in terms of capturing Kingdom K. Just because he signs a peace pact with them, that has no benefit, impact, or change, or benefit for what he's doing with Kingdom K. So A and B can be eliminated. C, he should try and create a rift between the two queens, meaning he should create fight between them. But again, this creates no benefit for him. His goal is on Kingdom K. So creating fight between them will not benefit him at all. So C is also eliminated. Now look at D. D says he should secretly invest in doubling his army by reducing all other expenditure. Right? Now this makes sense. If we have to enable him to accomplish his ambition of invading and capturing Kingdom K, this makes sense. He needs to double his army, which can be done by reducing all his expenditure, and he should do this secretly, so that his army becomes strong enough, and once it's strong enough, he can capture Kingdom K. So D seems like a potential answer. Then E is he should attack all three kingdoms simultaneously, giving them no time to cooperate. But we have already seen this. He cannot attack. He cannot fight with all the three kingdoms simultaneously. He has limited arms and ammunition, so this attack will not work. So therefore, E is also not a right option. Therefore, D is the right option when it comes to helping him accomplish his goal of attacking Kingdom K. Now, King Somersault of Kingdom K. I'll just bring the diagram here so that you can easily understand uh, which one I'm talking about. So let's keep this here. Yes. Now the question is, King Somersault was going to tackle the warring tribes. As you've already mentioned, Kingdom K united a group of warring tribes under his aegis, and that's how he formed Kingdom K. So basically, King Somersault is growing tired of all the tribes fighting with each other, and it is slowing down the economic development of Kingdom K. Right? So, what would be the best option for him to do so that he's able to focus on economic development of his kingdom? Right? So, let's look at the options. First is align with Jonathan and eliminate one or two of the tribes and instill fears with others. Now, thing is, this is a very dangerous option. He knows that Jonathan and him, have had continuously skirmishes in the past. It has been mentioned. So you cannot, align with your enemy against your own people, because that's a very dangerous thing. That might, in fact, under the pretext of aligning with him, he might even attack him completely. So this is not the best option. Additionally, the fact that if he uses Jonathan to eliminate one of the tribes and instill fear, if there is a fear within the tribes, then they will not pledge their loyalty to him, right? Because they'll be under him on the basis of fear, and having subjects on the basis of fear is always a dangerous thing. Because I think, as you can see in many countries which have monarchs, like in Iraq or in Libya, people who live under the fear of a dictator, of who live under fear, will always rise up to overthrow. So A is not a good answer option at all. B. Align with the two queens to eliminate a few tribes and unify the rest. Now, this seems like a good plan, because nowhere it is mentioned that the two queens have any issue with Kingdom K. They only have issue with Kingdom C, which is also the same kingdom that Somersault has a issue with. So basically, C is a common enemy for all these kingdoms. So enemy of your enemy is always a friend. So therefore, Somersault can possibly reach out to these queens and say, you know what, give me your help, and let's eliminate a few of the tribes, and the ones that are left, I will unify them. So this will benefit Emily and Rose also, because if Somersault becomes stronger, he will keep Kingdom C in check. Because, like I said, they need help in right now. They're capable of handling King Jonathan combined, but for future purposes, it can also help to have a ally who's also against their enemy, which is King Jonathan. So this seems like a good option. They will be willing to help him, and Somersault will be able to eliminate few of the tribes, and the remaining tribes he'll unify to form a strong uh, kingdom. So B seems like a good option for now. Let's see. C is design annual economic plans with each plan named after a different type. So this will not help. While economic plans he can implement as many as he wants, the tribes will keep on fighting with each other, and thus it will not benefit him in any way. Right? The main issue is the fact that the tribes are constantly fighting with each other, so it does not address that. D is create a rift among the tribes and instigate a civil war. This is making the situation worse. If he creates a rift among them and instigates a civil war, the infighting will grow worse and the economic development will become worse in Kingdom K. So this is actually the horrible option to have. Request Jonathan to send teachers, doctors, and artists to improve economic development of Kingdom K. Now the thing is, um, two things. One is, we already have established King Jonathan is the enemy of King's Somersault, and thus he might not be willing to help. Number one. Secondly, just having teachers, doctors, and artists is not enough to improve the economic development of any country. So just getting that will not improve the economic development of Kingdom K. Third, it has been mentioned that it is because of the warring tribes, meaning because of the constant fighting between the tribes, that the economy development has been slowed down. So having teachers, doctors, and tribes will in no way stop the fighting. So therefore, again, E is useless and impractical, and also not possible, because the enemy will not agree in the first place. So therefore, by elimination, B makes the most logical sense to align with the two queens, eliminate a few tribes, unify the rest, and become strong enough and pose a credible threat to Kingdom C, which will keep Kingdom A and Kingdom B happy, because their enemy, which is Kingdom C, will be busy with Kingdom K. So they'll help him also. So thus, option B becomes the correct answer. Right. Now, this is a very interesting type of question, that this deals with the uh, moralistic aspects that you have to consider as a manager when you're dealing with your employees and when you're taking managerial decisions with respect to your workforce. So let's have a look at this. Ava is the CEO of Ratan Brothers, a bicycle manufacturing company. The organization is doing well financially with a steady increasing share price. Recently, Ava promoted Bhushan, her nephew, to the position of head of procurement after he completed 5 years in the organization. After the promotion, he was automatically inducted in the quality council headed by Ava. So basically, Ava is the CEO of a bicycle manufacturing company, and the company is doing very well. It has financially well off, and the share price is increasing. And recently, and Ava has a her nephew called Bhushan, who's been working in the company for 5 years now. So she recently promotes him to the head of procurement, right? Also, because now he's the head of procurement, he's also automatically made a member of the quality council, and the head of the quality council is Ava, right? Then we have Dev and Sons is a supplier to the company, to Ratan Brothers. It supplies ball bearings. I'm sure you've seen those tiny steel ball bearings that we have. An important part of any bicycle. After Bhushan takes over, he switched to a new supplier citing quality deficiencies in Dev and Sons product. Dev and Sons responded by publicly declaring that their quality was not compromised. Further, it alleged that its competitor bribed Bhushan to get the contract. Post this public allegation, the share price of Ratan Brothers started falling. So now basically thing is Dev and Sons is a supplier to the company for a particular part, which is very important for the bicycle. So after Bhushan became the head of procurement, he switched to a different supplier, saying that the quality of Dev and Sons product was not good, right? And in return, in retaliation, Dev and Sons they publicly went and declared that their quality was good and said that some competitor had bribed Bhushan to get the contract. So because of this public allegation, the share price of Ratan Brothers, which was, as we mentioned, was steadily increasing, has now started falling. It was earlier increasing, but now it has started falling based on this public allegation. So which of the following is the best option for Ava to immediately stem the falling stock prices? So what, as a CEO, what should she do to immediately arrest the falling stock price, right? Now first is fire Bhushan, blacklist Dev and Sons, and inform the press. Now, like I said, as you mentioned in the one of the previous questions, never go on the extreme ends and go with extreme actions. Firing Bhushan, blacklisting the supplier, and inform the press just shows that she is a very rash CEO who takes extreme steps. There's no reasoning why she would fire Bhushan or blacklist Dev and Sons, right? She just, there's no reasoning given. She's just taking this step. So this is not the right course of action. So A is eliminated. B, issue a press statement that a committee has been formed to look into the matter. Now, this will not help and arrest the stock price because while you might say that we are having a committee, I think every one of us when we hear about the government starting a committee to investigate into a fraud claim or for investigation, we always know that it will take too much of time. And there'll be no conclusive results, and it will take years to complete. So the thing is, she wants to. Our goal is to immediately stop the falling stock prices. So saying that you've formed a committee to investigate will not stop anything. It will not restore the investor confidence in your company. They'll think, okay, you know what, they've just formed a committee. We don't know if it will be, when they'll give the results and whether, when the results will come. So B is not really the most apt option for an immediate stop in the decrease of the stock price. C is issue a press statement that the company's quality standards have increased and that anyone is welcome to scrutinize the relevant documents. Now, this seems like a good option. So you say publicly, you declare that our standards are increased and that you're welcome to scrutinize the document. So this shows transparency. Now, when you show transparency and you mention, so two things. The first part, when you say that declare that the quality standards have increased, that will restore investor confidence that this company is still has high quality products. And when you're saying that you can scrutinize the documents, it shows that this company has transparency and confidence in their own actions, and thus there is nothing left to hide and nothing wrong is going on. So having such declaration will definitely restore the confidence of anybody, of any investor, of any third party who's viewing this incident. So C seems like a good option. D, cancel the remaining order and call for a fresh tender. Now the thing is, canceling the order on the basis of an allegation is not the right step. As a CEO, you need to have a valid reason for doing such a big step, right? Now, right now, there is no information that is given anywhere in the paragraph or in the question to support the idea that there is something wrong with the order that is given to a different supplier. So there is no reason to cancel the remaining order and call for a fresh tender. And this will again, if you do that, in fact, that will not arrest the falling stock prices because this will in fact confirm the fears of the investors that there was some mischief that was done during the bidding process and thus the allegations are true. So this will in fact this can potentially increase the fall in stock price. E, do nothing as Bhushan as the head of procurement has the right to decide a supplier. This is not an option because, as it is said, that allegations are out there in the public, and the stock price is falling drastically. So, as a CEO, you have to she has to take a step to address the concerns of all the stakeholders. As we mentioned in the starting, decision making is always ensuring that all the stakeholders are kept in mind. So you cannot just ignore what is happening. Sorry, and therefore, by elimination, E also is not the right answer, and thus this makes sense that only C is the correct course of action here for her. Next question: under pressure from the media and suppliers, AWA constituted a cross-functional committee of senior executives to investigate Dev and Sons allegation against Bhushan. The committee exonerated Bhushan. However, rumors within the organization began to spread that the decision was influenced by nepotism. So basically, what happens is because there's so much pressure from the media and the suppliers, AWA has a senior committee full of senior members to investigate the allegation against Bhushan, and the committee gave a result that Bhushan was innocent. But rumors began to spread within the company that the decision was influenced by nepotism. Nepotism is basically favoring your own family members or your friends. So basically, the rumors are that the committee gave proved Bhushan innocent because he was Eva's nephew. So there's a rumors. So how would she? What should be the response from Eva now? First is do nothing, as the committee has exonerated Bhushan. Now, this is not possible. As I've already mentioned, as the CEO, you cannot ignore the fears or the rumors or concerns raised by the organization people that there is a nepotism. Because once this starts a fear that there is nepotism within the organization, it will definitely affect their work and affect employee morale. So you cannot just do nothing. Okay, so A is not the right answer. B, uh, force Bhushan to resign temporarily, make an independent inquiry, if found innocent, reinstate Bhushan. The thing is, you cannot force an employee to resign temporarily, and so if you do an independent inquiry, this will show that this will prove the fears of the employees that the internal inquiry committee was biased. That is why Bhushan was forced to resign, and that is why an independent inquiry was formed to investigate to again reinvestigate Bhushan. So this will remove the confidence that the employees have on the organization, on its decisions, on its internal committee, and their investigations. So B is not a good step. C, communicate to all shareholders that these kind of practices are very common in organization. Now, this is clearly a very bad step. If you tell them that such practices are common and you tell them to therefore tolerate that, it sets a very bad precedent. And they'll think, you know what, this they're justifying this that just because other companies do wrong practices, we are doing the same thing. So C cannot be the right answer. D, sack all those employees who question the authority of AWA. Now, this shows a very dictatorial mindset. As a CEO, you cannot just fire anyone who has questioning a decision taken by CEO, because in any good organization, an opposing viewpoint needs to be there, needs to be fostered, and needs to be heard. But behaving like a dictator like Saddam Hussein, that's not how a CEO works. So D is a very bad option. E, explain in a town hall meeting open to all the employees how the decision to exonerate Bhushan was taken. Now, this seems like a good option because a town hall meeting is basically a meeting of all the employees that is conducted by the senior executive or the CEO typically, where they have an open discussion with them about various issues. So if they have an open discussion with all the employees and where they explain in detail how the decision was taken, so this will put to rest the fear. So your address the fear is that the decision was influenced by nepotism. But if there is openness with these employees that where they explain how the decision was arrived at, and they clarify that you know what there's a so and so logical reasoning that was used to arrive at declaring Bhushan innocent, then that will clear their fears and make them feel more confident that you know what, it was an impartial judgment by the committee. So E seems like a very good option as a CEO of a company, right? Now, after a few months after the issue of Dave and Sons, Dev and Sons, a vigilance committee discovered some financial irregularities attributable to Bhushan in his earlier stint as a senior manager in marketing. The board of directors was concerned about this and demanded a responsible CEO. So Ava contemplated the following responses. Which of the following sequence of actions is the most appropriate for Ava? So basically, what happens is that after a few months, a vigilance committee basically discovered some financial irregularities uh, done by Bhushan when he was a senior manager in marketing before he became the head of procurement. They found some financial misleadings, financial that he had cheated the company or he had done something wrong. So, of course, when this was discovered, the board of directors concerned about this, and they said that as the CEO, you have to give a response because he was also your nephew, and later on you had promoted him. So, what will you do? So, Ava has five options, and you have to arrange the sequence. So, you have to take three actions and say that in which order would be the best course of action for her as the CEO of the company. So, let's see what are the options that we have. First is offer to resign from the post of CEO, since as a CEO, she's ultimately responsible for everything in the organization. So the first option is partially a morally correct decision because as the CEO, somebody who she hired as her own from her own nephew who she hired and promoted was involved in irregularities, and of course she is somewhere responsible for these for his actions. So this is one of the potential things that she can do, but that being said, offering to resign is not the number one thing that needs to be done because it does not offer a solution to what has been to the irregularities that have occurred in the company already, right? So second is sack Bhushan immediately and make the reason public. Now this seems like a good step because you're sacking the person and you're giving people the reason. So let's look at it. Potentially, this seems like a good step, but let's see what other steps are there. Have a town hall meeting with the employees and deny any financial irregularities in the organization. Now, this is a very bad step. It has been proven that there was financial irregularities, and then you're taking a town hall meeting with the employees and you're denying any such irregularities. That means you're clearly lying to their face. This is the opposite of a good step. This is a very bad step, and this will actually destroy the confidence or the trust or the faith that the employees have on the organization. So three is absolutely a bad step. Four, communicate to the board that the as a CEO, the organization's financial health is her top priority, on which she has delivered stellar performance in the last 5 years. Now, this is it is not relevant. While she might have performed good as the CEO and she would have performed good, she would have delivered good performance in the last 5 years. You have to understand that something did happen in the company that was done by somebody that she had hired. So while she might have done very well overall, there was some irregularities that cannot be overlooked. So just because she did good on one part doesn't mean the other part can be overlooked. So option four might not be such a great option, but let's see. Option five is inform the board that Bhushan was promoted because initiatives helped the company immensely. Right. So this seems like a possible thing because this will tell them that Bhushan was not promoted because of nepotism. While this is a logically good thing, you have to understand this in no way uh, addresses the concerns of the board of directors that that her own nephew was involved in financial irregularities. So five might not be a good option. So far we know for a fact that three is definitely a bad option. So let's look at the answer options. Any answer option that has three can be eliminated. So option B has three, option C has three, and option E has three. So we can eliminate these two completely, right? So that means we are only left with options A and option D, right? Now, how do you select out of these two? One simple thing is that we have to follow the sequence of actions. Now, obviously, if you look at D, the first, if you see the option number one is offer to resign from the post of CEO. You have to understand the offer to resign as opposed to the CEO should be as the last in the sequence of action, because once you have to put forth your viewpoints, you have to make sure things are all right, and then only you should resign, because that's your moral responsibility. That if things are wrong, then it's your responsibility to put things right and then resign with the taking responsibility for whatever has gone wrong. So therefore, in option D, it is 214. So one is not the last step, while in A, one is the last step. And so let's see if whether A fits the correct course of action. First is 5. Inform the board that Bhushan was promoted because of any initiatives. So first is you tell the board of directors that Bhushan was promoted on the basis of his initiatives. Now the thing is, this might not be such a good step, because it tells, it does not, matlab, the question was never raised by the board that whether there was nepotism in his promotion. The issue was with the financial irregularities that he has conducted. So I think in that case, it would make sense to remove this point and then focus on let's see, two on the other option, which is 214, right? So 2 is first, this has to be sacking immediately of Bhushan and make the reason public. So this will improve the trust of all the stakeholders in the company. Okay. Second is she offers to resign from the post of CEO because she is ultimately responsible and she's taking moral responsibility, which is good. And then fourth, she has to communicate to the board that as a CEO, the organization final health is a top priority on which she has delivered control. So basically, what happens is first she'll sack. In this step, first she would have to sack Bhushan, tell people the reason, then tell the board, and then she'll give an offer that I'll resign, take full responsibility, and then she'll also tell the board that, you know what, I have always focused on the financial health and I have always delivered good performance in the past. So what this will do is that it will show that, you know what, on one hand she has corrected she has penalized the person who's responsible by firing Bhushan. She's willing to take responsibility and she's offering to resign as well. And third, she's pointing out that her performance has in no way been lesser than what is expected of a CEO. So she has done her duty completely well, and that is why the performance has always been stellar of the organization, and that she's always focused on financial health. So she's trying to say that while I'm willing to take responsibility, you have to understand that I'm also trying to put forth that from my side I have always focused on this thing and I've always delivered the right things. So this, what happened was a minor aberration in an otherwise good performance. So she's putting for that reason. So therefore 214 would be the more apt option over 521. So D becomes the right answer, right? So then let's look at the last answer, last question for today from the ZAT 2018 paper. Madhuri Apte is a busy professional who rents out a studio apartment located in South Mumbai. Since she stays 3 hours away from the studio apartment, she uses a network digital lock to monitor the property remotely. Each customer gets a temporary and unique access code for the digital lock that enables them to enter the studio apartment for the duration of the stay. The apartment's entrance door can also be opened with the physical keys, and Madhuri Apte has two such keys in a possession. So basically, Madhuri Apte, she rents out her studio apartment in South Bombay, right? And she stays quite, her where she stays is different from her studio apartment, and she has a digital lock which is connected to the internet, and it enables her to monitor her property remotely from her house, which is far away. And each customer who comes there, they get a temporary and a very unique access code, which will enable them to enter and exit the studio for the duration that they've booked the apartment, right? Also, the door can be opened by physical keys as well, not just using the key digital lock keypad. It can be used with physical keys as well, and both the keys that are there for this are with Madhuri only, right? Madhuri has employed a cleaner who has a permanent code to enter the facility for cleaning every day. She is available only between 1500 hours and 1700 hours. So basically, there is also cleaner who's been employed by Madhuri. She has a permanent access code to enter the apartment, and she comes for cleaning every day between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. in the afternoon, right? Madhuri Apte's apartment caters largely to international customers, and a customer typically stays for 3 days, paying an average rent of $125 per day. So typically, her average, mostly, not all, but most of her clients are international customers, and a customer typically stays at the apartment for 3 days, and the average rent that these international clients pay is $125 a day. So usually per customer, I think Madhuri would end up making 125 into 3, which is $375 per customer, right? While Madhuri Apte's studio apartment gets good feedback on other aspects, many seem unhappy as they found the operation of digital lock complicated, right? Now, which of the following options is the best for Madhuri Apte in this context, right? So basically, her apartment has very good feedback in every single way, except for the fact that many of the customers find operating a digital lock very complicated. So, what should she do now, right? First is Madhuri should switch to a physical lock. Now, this doesn't seem like a good idea because switching to a physical lock would remove the remote her ability to monitor the property remotely. So that's the reason why she, in fact, one of the main reasons I think that she would have gotten a digital lock is that she can monitor her remote property remotely. If she switches to a digital lock, she loses that, and since she lives very far away, then that leads to a lot of that she cannot monitor it, and that leads to a lot of oversight. A lot of so she cannot change to a physical lock. This is not a good option because you have to understand the right option should be feasible for the customers as well as for Madhuri. Madhuri, on request, should send one of the physical keys 5 days ahead of the customer's arrival at an extra charge of $75. Now, the thing is, giving this option, while some people who might pay $75 will definitely get the physical keys and easier. What about the customers who are not willing to spend extra money on just getting an extra key? They will still find some issues with the digital lock, and thus they will also still leave negative reviews for her. So this will address only some of the customers. This will not address all the customers, right? So let's take it C. Madhuri should request the cleaner to explain the working of the digital access code to customers for an extra charge. Now the thing is, you have to understand. We know for a fact that the cleaner comes only between 1500 and 1700 hours. So in that 2 hours, what if a customer comes in the morning at 10 o'clock? Are they will they wait till 3 o'clock in the afternoon for the cleaner to come and explain to them? It's not a sustainable option because the cleaner is not there all the time, and plus charging the customers extra for explaining the working of the digital lock is not a good practice because, like I said, not everyone might be willing to pay extra to understand the workings of a lock when they've already paid for the room. So it is not a sustainable option, right? So C is also eliminated. D. Madhuri should do nothing as digital locks shall be the norm in the future. Now, this is also not a right option because clearly there is a negative feedback that is coming from the customers, and Madhuri has to address it somehow. So, ignoring it will not seems to be disconnecting. Apologies for that. I'll repeat what was said. I was talking about the second point. So it said, be present during checkout to ensure the key is returned. So this is also not a feasible option because she lives 3 hours away from her flat, and traveling up and down every time someone and a customer wants to check out is not a feasible solution for her. Additionally, her her customers might want to check out at any given point of the day. Somebody might want to check out in the middle of the night. I apologize. There seem to be some connective. Right. So as I mentioned, so sending polite reminders might not always work because it doesn't take into account human error and people still forgetting to leave the keys behind. And if they forget, despite the reminders, to leave the key behind, she'll end up again paying $500 and 10 days worth of waiting for her. So therefore, E, in which case you charge a security deposit of $100, which will be forfeited if the keys are not left behind. Now this makes sense. When there is a security deposit of $100, which will be refunded to them when they return the keys, customers will be more careful about returning the keys because they know that they have $100 that they might end up losing, right? So this makes sense because this will not cost an extra money to her because $100 will be returned to them. Plus, it will give them an incentive to make sure that they return the key on time. So E seems to be the most logically correct answer here, right? Now, so guys, I think we'll have to stop the class here. If you liked my session, please tune in for my next videos as well. I'll be taking more sessions on XAT. I'll be taking sessions on decision making for XAT. I'll be taking sessions on verbal for all management exams as well. And if you like my videos, please like the video, please share and subscribe to our channel as well. And you can join our Telegram channel for regular updates on the videos that will be published for MBA. And in case you're planning to join our Unacademy subscription courses, you can use my code Achyut. We'll be continuing the class. We'll be sending an update for the next video where I'll be discussing decision making questions from older XAT papers as well. And I hope you enjoyed today's class. And I'll